like to call this meeting a board of adjustments to order.
Also, the only item we got on the agenda is the conditional use permit for the address of 0 Taft Highway, which is currently owned by Mr. and Mrs. Bay. They're requesting conditional use for campground, cabins, and RVs used on property that is not allowed in the zone, permitted in the zone. So they're asking for conditional use. Mr. Ellis? Yeah. Mr. Ellis is here.
Elias.
Elias, sorry. Sorry about that. And we have representatives from Mr. Davis, and he's also on our screen with us from KFC.
We don't have any experience with this, so if you could just tell them what the procedure is, that would be great.
We just want to know what your intentions are and what you plan to do with the property.
Basically, on top of what they already was zoned, if it wasn't included in the RV campground that was zoned in the zoning to what was described that it was for the zone from previously. We know there's another one here. They have RV park. We just figured if this could be zoned like that, that was showed interest for us to buy it, and if it can't be done, then it's a different story. Unless if RVs cannot be included.
You're wanting to put cabins in there too?
Yeah. Which I thought that was already from before that was in the zoning, or is it not?
It should be allowed. It's going to be, what's the size of them going to be? Like 1 person, 2 person?
Well, it's not really totally sure. We have, from our past, we've done different sizes. So is there a limit, or is there?
I was just like, 'cause I know the cabins that we go on South Main, the Brook, are like 1 or 2 person.
Right.
But be similar to like a hotel or cabin on Gallagher, which seems to be allowed right now.
Is there described what size is allowed at this?
I was just asking.
No, what we have done, which I'm trying to do about the same thing from where I come from, and that would include like up to 3 bedroom and 2 bedroom, like that. So
on the RV parking, are you talking like just campers that pull in off the interstate and park for the night, for the 2 nights, 3 nights, or are you talking like where you're going to have them like out there at the other park where they can be permanent?
well, both ways. We have no issues at our place where we have it, either nightly or weekly or monthly. So
What's the square footage on the houses y'all have now in those?
from maybe 700, 900 to a little over 1,000. Something.
Right.
Can I ask one question before we get too far along? Is this being recorded or minutes and stuff?
Yes.
Yes. Is it's not being recorded?
Yes,
though?
It is recorded,
Okay.
yes. We do have audio and video.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I don't know if you all have a general form like a court hearing perspective. I know that this would typically be considered a hearing. I don't know if there's, I'll have some questions and different things, but I don't know how you want to.
Right, you can ask, we can answer them.
I think it's pretty open. I'll admit too, this is the first one that I've been asked to come to for
Okay.
a really long time.
Gotcha.
So I think it's a fairly informal proceeding at this point. So as long as everybody.
I mean, I don't mind asking questions, or I can give our position and then ask questions. We can sort of go that way. My name's Joey Variance. I represent Mr. Davis and his corporation. He owns the lot right off Broadway that has the KFC. And quite frankly, our issue at this point is that unfortunately we just don't know enough about the use. This is going to be used for a conditional use permit if it's granted, and our understanding of the conditional use permit is that when you all decide if it's going to be granted, you're going to set forth certain conditions. And at this point, we don't know anything about how utilities are going to come to and from. We don't know how they're going to access the property to and from. If they access the property through KFC and exit the property through KFC, there's been no traffic studies, from my understanding, that indicate how detrimental that would be, especially coming out with an RV from that exit, crossing 4 lanes to back on 75, we believe would be truly detrimental to not only Mr. Davis's business, but also to the general public in general, coming to and from all the businesses down there. But again, we don't know, how they're going to get, utilities to and from. We don't know anything about the maintenance. We don't know anything about how the land's going to look. We don't know if there's going to be 10 spots for RVs, 110 spots for RVs. It's just at this point we really don't know enough. Pursuant to the ordinance for conditional use permits, it states that a written application for conditional use permit and a site plan subject to the applicable requirements will be submitted to the board. And it's my understanding at this point the site plan hasn't been submitted, and I completely sympathize and understand that he wants to have knowledge of if it's going to go through or not before spending the money to have a traffic study or to determine how to develop it or determine the ingress and egress and to put it into a site plan. But unfortunately, pursuant to the statute and the ordinance, and so that you all can set forth the proper conditions, we believe that a site plan is crucial in this instance, because one of the conditions I would think would be we would take that site plan and whatever whatever the vision is on the site plan would be implemented to a T, and if he varied off of that, then it would be subject to withdrawal. So at this point, we believe that more studies and research needs to be put in before a conditional use permit should be granted. Secondly, and furthermore realistically, we believe that an RV park realistically shouldn't fit under the neighborhood commercial zone. One of the specific development controls in ordinance 10.10 in its section E number 7 says all business activities permitted within the zone shall be conducted within a completely enclosed building with the exception of off-street parking, loading, or unloading areas. I don't know that with an RV park any of that business would be constructed in an enclosed area. I understand why a motel was allowed. I understand why Walmart would be allowed, a restaurant, a gas station, all those types of, they have a whole list of them. And all list is, stores that benefit the neighborhood in which they can operate within an enclosed building. This realistically isn't going to benefit the neighborhood. It's going to mostly benefit people traveling to and from, coming down 75, and or people wanting to, possibly visit the Ark or whatever they may want to do here. But I don't know, I don't believe that it fits in the neighborhood commercial zone. I know that there's a previous RV park that is currently zoned non-commercial or neighborhood commercial, but my understanding, and this can be corrected if it's incorrect, my understanding with that RV park is it actually was an RV park prior to being part of Dry Ridge, and then when it annexed, when Dry Ridge annexed that property in, it was zoned as neighborhood commercial, but in my opinion, that would be a pre-existing non-conforming use as opposed to a conditional use permit. So recently there was an ordinance passed, I think it was Ordinance 853, 2018. It's not signed on the website, but I'm assuming it was passed, being that it's up there. It actually zoned RV park for agricultural 1, which would make sense because if you look at the other businesses that are allowed in the agricultural, they're not enclosed in that building. So we don't have enough information, unfortunately, in our opinion, for anybody to grant a conditional use permit. And lastly, one of the other things in the conditional use permit statute or ordinance, it basically indicates for a conditional use that if it doesn't fit specifically in what's named in the 1010 neighborhood commercial zone, that the Board of Adjustments may approve, modify, or deny any application for a conditional use permit, but it must determine beyond any reasonable doubt, which is the highest of standards, that the proposed location is necessary or desirable to provide a service, and that it will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of the persons residing or working in the vicinity, or injurious to the property improvements in the vicinity. I don't know how there's any way that there would be, evidence or testimony today, and specifically without the site plan, in our opinion, a traffic study to determine if it is going to be injurious or not to the general public and to the businesses in that vicinity.
Typical to have some sort of written proposal,
Yeah,
each page, what's,
Yeah, because you can't just roll in there, just like you said.
completely agree. I assume at this point, is it typical to have more than we got now?
Yeah.
Or you guys have more?
Yeah, I don't think I just don't need
But I can understand, I mean, although it's like playing cost, it costs.
Well, I was gonna say, 'cause I know talking to Becky, what she's done before is had someone come and say, okay, this is the land, they're gonna put, let's say they're gonna say 8 cabins. They'll just draw on this piece of paper and say roughly where they're gonna be, this is where the slips are gonna be. And you can say, if you get, I'm gonna do 8 cabins, 8 slips. You can say, okay, here's a conditional use for up to 10, and then if he wants to add more, come back and do another conditional use on top of it.
And I don't go back to years.
The county plans and.
And I haven't dealt with Grant County much. I know that in Harrison County, where I generally practice, they would require a specific drawing, generally a site plan. I think that if it's, a limited, if it's something that isn't, I mean, this is going to be quite an undertaking. I think he would acknowledge that as well, to move the dirt and level it out to ensure that, he can do everything that he wants to with regards to the spots, with regards to the mobile or the cabins. I realistically don't think a drawing just saying, oh, we anticipate cabin to be here and cabin to be here, it would be sufficient. I think that, a site plan, an engineer of some sort, which is costly, I understand why he doesn't want to do that until he knows. But I think that that's the only way we're going to truly know, what you all, I think that's the only way you all will truly know what conditions would ultimately need to be put on this permit. And I think that one of the conditions would be that he would need to follow the site plan, whatever the conditions would be. That's assuming that it even is determined to be a permitted use, conditional permitted use under the neighborhood commercial, which again, I don't think that it fits that definition under the ordinance.
And I'm sorry, I know Mr. Gordon asked you earlier, and maybe you were a little more specific, maybe I missed it. How many cabins, we'll start with that, how many cabins do you anticipate? I know you said it could be 1 to 3 bedrooms, but just...
Okay, like what I have at home, I have about, let's say 1 to 10, let's say maybe 1 cabin for 10 RVs. So let's say if by future growth, from what my desire and my intentions would be, would be much more than 10 RVs, but let's say, but not what he said wasn't benefiting the city much, but I think exactly different, it would benefit exactly the city, from, let's say, because more stationary, because what you have here already, it's a RV that's parked, that's full, and there's not even room if I wanted to come here and live here. Well,
I was just saying, I just want to make sure I don't, again, lose track of whatever. So you said, did I hear you say 10 RVs possibly?
No, more at least 50. Let's say, I said 1 cabin to 10 RVs, for example, if I plant 50 RVs, maybe about 5 cabins, that's kind of what we have.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm following you, because, right, so 50 would sort of be your ballpark, right?
Yeah.
Idea, and then if you did a similar ratio, you'd have 5
Yeah, that's kind of,
cabins.
yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. Now, you understand?
Yeah.
All right. Just like I said, I've participated in this for a while. Do you, you said you do daily, weekly, monthly, and rentals. How important or how common or how, what sort of anticipation do you have as far as these longer term rentals? The monthly. I understand if you go to Florida or somewhere, you want to spend the whole winter, this isn't exactly a spend, months at a time kind of place, I wouldn't think. I like it here, but it doesn't seem to. What would be your anticipation for the length of stay or the maximum length of stay or what you would need?
Months for people at least. Because the way it does, well, we can hardly talk about a daily, of course it's different over there, but we don't even know much of, if there's somebody come for a night only, we're shocked. That's where I come from. So it would be a little bit more like that here because the Ark County and all that, it may be, but not I would anticipate a lot of longer stays than a day.
And you say where you come from, that Texas, or?
Yeah.
Okay, just make it real quick. Would it, I kind of have a general sense that the longer term rentals may cause some hesitancy, and I may be wrong about that, but I have a general sense that it might. How detrimental would it be to your project if there were, and I don't know, if the limit was a month, just to throw that out or something, I have no idea what these guys are thinking. You know, would that be a deal breaker, as they say, if there was some sort of limit, say 3, 4, 5 weeks?
That they couldn't stay longer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a deal breaker, because
Okay.
personally, I don't see it like that.
Okay.
You know.
And again, I'm
Yeah.
not speaking for these guys. I haven't discussed it with them. They told me we could go to be here, so I've done some research on it.
I could be wrong, but I see what I'm saying.
So if you couldn't, and so even a month, even a 30-day,
A limit, I mean, that would be strict.
would that still be difficult for you guys to make it work?
I would not even have thought about it, you know, that there would be ever a limit, you know, on how long they would stay. And I would think the longer they stay, it benefits all the community here. You know, like
I'm just-
Walmart and even maybe even Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Just trying to come up with some.
They're gonna buy supplies.
Yeah, they're
at
gonna walk
Walmart.
out- they're gonna walk
buy
out there and
supplies
make-
My only
Have to
concern with
survive.
that would be if they are allowed to stay indefinitely, basically. I don't see how it's going to stop from just turning into pretty much a mobile home park. I mean, they would be on wheels and movable, obviously, but if there's no definite period, I could see that very easily going and turning that area into more of a, I don't know what the appropriate word is, but more of a long-term, a trailer park, and so I definitely don't think that that's put in as part of the neighborhood commercial zone.
How would you, if Mr. Grex has I think a valid concern, or at least I'm guessing what's going to be a valid concern, could you address that concern? You know, if there was, sorry. You're right.
Conversation clear, sorry.
No, I was just saying stability is, you know, if you're concerned about something like that, you could possibly do a ratio, say you only have 5 that are extremely extended stay spots. So say, you know, if you want to say no more than 3 months, you know, that's our summertime. Most people aren't going to want to come to Kentucky in the winter. But, you know, I know in most RV parks, you know, those extended stay people, they have very nice setup areas, but you may want something that, I'm just putting out possibilities.
And I don't disagree with any possibilities. I think what our ultimate conclusion on everything is, at this point, we don't know. We don't know if that's a possibility, if it's not a possibility. If, you know, the 50 to 5 mobile homes or RVs there, cabins is a possibility. You know, how they're going to run utilities and water. Everything at this point is speculative. It's an idea that people can express and they can go, you know, change and vary. But there's nothing, you know, nothing in writing that you all can look at, we can look at, the public can look at that says, you know, this is what is the plan and this is what's going to be followed to a T. And so I just think that it's going to be very difficult without more information to realistically determine beyond a reasonable doubt that, you know, this is what's truly best for the community and is ultimately permitted under the neighborhood commercial zone.
I asked you a minute ago, sir, with this issue, and then Ms. Kimberly makes a very good point. If there is some concern about the longer term stays, and if the board was open to entertaining a compromise, and again, no idea if they are or not. I mean, is that? I know you said the one deal breaker. Is that less of a deal breaker, or is it?
Okay, I have
just makes you
to
nervous?
reconsider, let's see, I never even thought, that never even crossed my mind, because where we come from, there's a few people been there 3 years, and there's maybe a lot of them stay a week or a day, but let's say that's, if that had to be excluded from long term, then I would have to evaluate this area, probably see what works, because I'm not, you know, that's a strange approach, and, you know, if I don't know let's say if there's a limit to how long they stay. So then I called here, you know, I thought if I could bring my RV, but I wouldn't. Back in the day, he told me then I had to put my name down for whenever it came vacant. So that. I don't know if theirs works like that. That RV park that's here, because they were full, they wouldn't even come.
Are you saying you don't understand the concern?
Yeah, I mean,
About your trailer park?
well, I kind of disagree with, let's say, when they say, well, if it benefits the community, the longer they stay, the more they, let's say, unless you have overwhelming housing that you would want to empty houses all over town, but we're not used to that, you know, so I don't know what your concern is here, why you want only 3 months. That's kind of, this was, caught me off guard, you know.
Okay, but I guess, to be clear, I guess do you not understand, or having a clue why they might be concerned that it would, for lack of a better way to put it, turn into a trailer park? I understand they're gonna buy stuff here. I readily concede that, certainly, and that's a positive thing. I'm not saying that isn't true, but are you saying you don't understand why they're afraid it might become a trailer park?
I don't know why they would be afraid, but it could be, maybe look like that, you know, so that's, if it's RVs, I mean, in and out, you have prettier ones, but I don't know if that's, we use too much, so they come in and they're packed full, and we don't worry about that, you know, but I don't know if that's a concern here. I have to adjust myself to that.
And not the trailer parks are bad.
Right, and some are very nice, I understand that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that at all, I just know that my argument is that a park like that would not be in the neighborhood commercial zone, and nor would it be, in my opinion, an additional use for a neighborhood commercial zone, and I think that's the ultimate. I'm not saying that certain things would be advantageous or not. I mean, yes, they certainly would buy things, they would buy things from KFC, but there's also going to be detriments to the public in general, and to KFC specifically. And at this point, there's no studies that have been performed, there's no evaluations, there's nothing, unfortunately, that anybody could point to that would be able to, and I know I keep reiterating this, but there's nothing that anybody could point to that says, these are the 10 conditions you follow, and if you follow them, you know, you can keep the permit, and if you don't get the permit. At this point, there's no way that any conditions realistically can be put in place, because we don't have that information before us.
I have one question, does that make a difference, the way y'all see it, if the trailer park was maybe off the highway or a different area, that it would make a difference, or is there no place in this community like to where they would accept that like that, you know?
I think there are, and I'll keep the board answer, but I think there are different zones that it would be allowable.
Okay, zones?
We do have a couple of trailer parks, and we do have a parcel that is zoned for a trailer park.
And the conditions of them obviously vary widely. We understand that.
Yeah.
They vary widely. One thing, and this is going to also Mr. Durax, has been repeating a couple times, and it's a concern. I understand that you've got an easement there that I guess, is the easement totally on your...
There's 2 easements. One easement is totally on KFC's property for ingress and egress, and there's one easement that is totally through Walmart for ingress and egress.
That was my understanding when I looked into it. What sort of, I'm going to ask you a similar question that I asked about the time frame limitation. How vital is it to your plans to use the easement that's across the KFC property as opposed to the easement across the Walmart property?
I think if they entered in the park there, it would be really important to have that one there, but to, like I told already, we could have an exit point, you know, for Walmart, if that made a big difference when our bees would pull on the highway. But it is important to have it, but if left, let's say if we had only one, you know, that would have to consider that one, how vital it would be.
So it's clearly your first choice, but is that an issue that you might be able to find some more flexibility on and work with the board? Because I do know there's a bunch of concerns with that.
She totally give it up to me?
Well, or Or it sounds either totally give it up or maybe something less than that. And again, I haven't really talked to these.
Well, that would be
guys.
something to think about, see how I could make it work.
Right.
But think that easement is there, I mean,
It is,
if the fried chicken owns it or has a part there, they can't stop us from using it.
well, Mike, it is there, but there's also, and although Mr. Garrett's
I'm just throwing
probably
it out there, I
topic
mean,
to address this, but, I mean, there are certain theories when it comes to easements that still would apply. I mean, that easement, from what I can tell, was granted way back in the, I'm not even sure how far back I ended up going, 40s, 50s on this. And certainly, I'm playing devil's advocate more than Mike, okay? There was no this didn't look like this. The interstate wasn't there, and there's no anticipation of it. And so there's also this notion of overburdening an easement and exceeding the scope of the easement. And I think those may be some concerns that are going to be raised by somebody here, and looks like they're ready to jump all over it. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry, I thought you were trying to get my attention.
No.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's definitely one of our biggest concerns. It's not our only concern, but it is one of the biggest concerns, and specifically with regards to ingress and egress across that. I mean, that was, I think it might actually come from the 60s, but it was prior to, this being developed to the extent that it has, and there was never, in our opinion, any acknowledgement at that point that it would be used for such heavy volume, as opposed to the Walmart easement, which was just recently granted, and so clearly it had already established the development in Dry Ridge, and so there was clearly an intention that it would be used for multiple heavy purposes and heavy volume at that point. What our issue ultimately is on the easement, again, I keep harping on it, but right now we don't know how often that easement is going to be used. The maintenance of the easement, we don't have any idea on that. We don't, again, know if there's going to be 10 spots, 100 spots, 50 spots and 5 cabins. We don't know, if they're entering the lot, they're going to have to, in the big RVs, they're going to have to swing double lane to come in so that they don't take out the curb. It's going to cause, both sides, honestly, are going to have delays. People going through the drive-through, when it gets busy, it's going to back up onto that easement. They're still using it for ingress, but the mobile or the RVs are going to have to wait to get back. In the event that you choose for egress specifically, there's going to be a flow of traffic going against the grain. Right now, Mr. Davis has it set up so that traffic is circular and goes, when you pull in, you either veer left to park or you continue straight to go through the drive-through and circle around and exit on the opposite side of the building. I understand that there's probably some people that don't follow how it's supposed to do, and that's inevitable, and they actually go out the entrance. But for the most part, traffic does flow in that manner, and that was after Mr. Davis had spoken with different people with the transfer cabinet, part of the transportation, and they were very glad the way he did the curb setbacks and flowed the traffic one way. If we have RVs specifically, but any car realistically, coming out, going against the grain, is going to severely affect the drive-through. It's going to delay people getting in, going to delay people getting out in the RVs. And specifically, what we don't have any idea on at this point is how detrimental it's going to be to the Rockledge, because most people here are familiar. If you're trying to turn left out of that area across 4 lanes to get back to 75, most times of the day, and specifically during traffic times of the day, you might have to wait 3 to 5 minutes. And Mr. Davis can attest to the fact that sometimes people will get impatient; they'll just take off, and it's not. It's a very dangerous situation, especially if you have big RVs that are going to take considerably longer to cross those 4 lanes to get back on the 75. So we believe the ingress-egress aspect to that place is going to be extremely difficult to happen. Now, I'm not going to say that they do have an easement for ingress and egress. The question ultimately is, how far does that extend for what purposes, for how many vehicles, things of that nature. But that aside, there's no way that we know at this point whether or not it'll even be feasible.
Is there any difference between Walmart, who controls that one, or who's right-of-way, who granted the right-of-way by Walmart? Is it Walmart or is it the city?
Walmart to the bays, I believe.
Walmart granted that one, and I think another key difference would be, obviously, if you use the Walmart one, then it goes out into Ferguson and then turns onto Taft Highway, as opposed to directly coming off of Taft Highway. Even the parking lot issue aside, I understand it. They say, well, it's one parking lot versus another parking lot. Well, that's true. But one's a whole lot bigger than the other. And on one, you wouldn't be exiting or coming off of 22, you'd be coming off of Ferguson Boulevard.
Does the city maintain that, or does Walmart, let's say that's a lot longer driveway by the Walmart end?
Walmart's property, I don't want to see it.
I would imagine that once the easement was established, though, there would be some sort of maintenance that would have to be assisted, but Walmart may not do it now.
Maybe in here somewhere.
Sure, it might be.
If I could I ask a question? Mike, I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, this might be directed at you just a little bit. I don't know if you can see me or not, but if I could, just for a matter of reference, the concern here, Mike, is it with the use of the property or the easement of the right-of-way?
Well,
I mean, if the easement issue wasn't a factor, would there still be a problem with the use of the property?
are y'all hearing me okay?
Yes.
Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
The use of the property is going to have a direct effect on the amount of development back there. It's going to have a great impact on how much that use is used. And again, I'm doing as my attorney has said, we just have a bigger picture of everything, plan, the layout, all the utilities. Maybe we could look at it, but right now we just don't have a clue how much is going to be used on that property, or how much used on that easement. The easement is a high traffic area already for us, and it's only coming in, and we are trying to make sure it's safe for people trying to get in our lot and in our business. The easement is going to be very, very detrimental to the use of that easement. As a middle way to do our business. And the concern of the property, of where how it's going to be developed, yes, that's part of it. Is much I hope I answered your question there.
Because the current zoning for the property would allow a variety of different businesses to open, that just hearing the conversation sounds like it would raise the same question. So I'm a little confused. I don't know which one's the chicken and which one's the egg, so to speak.
Well, and to answer that with another question is by allowing this without having a site plan and knowing what's going to happen, is sort of putting the cart before the horse.
Right,
so.
but there's several, I guess my point is that there's several permitted uses. If someone wanted to open a car lot in there, you couldn't do anything. So would the question be the use of the property or the easement of
Well, and I think that the answer, unfortunately, and what Mike had indicated, is that at this point, we don't know enough about to say, is it just the easement or is it the development of the property? I mean, we're not trying to be anti-developmental or developing by any means, but we don't have information that allows us to determine if it's going to be detrimental for the easement, if it's not, if it's going to be detrimental for the business, if it's not, if it's going to be detrimental to get on the Broadway, or if it's not, if it's going to be, accessible for utilities and maintenance and so forth. at this point, we don't have the information to be able to tell you the answer if it's just the easement or if it's, but both of them are concerning.
And the reason why, and it's no offense to you, but the reason why I was directing it more at Mike was from a different perspective. The land is going to develop at some point, whether it's this project or another project, and I just don't know if we're going to continue to have this problem.
I understand.
If that's the development of the property is a total roadblock on this easement issue. That's what my question was. Mike, I'm sorry, I don't know if you heard that or not.
I'm sorry. In fact, I'm not even sure who's speaking. Is this the mayor?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear who was actually addressing. We're having some trouble with volume here, and so we're really kind of leaning over this to the audio here. But go ahead. Are y'all hearing me better than I'm hearing y'all?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Do you have any pictures or anything of your other development?
You can just go pop it online. You can see Lantern RV and cabins. If anybody has internet, they can see we have a south lot and a north lot. And at this point, you can see the cabins, just all mixed with the Lantern RV and cabins. You just go and if you just go to that website, or you put just RV spots in Seminole, Texas, and Lantern RV will come up, and there's a website link to it. Lantern RV and cabins.
How,
T-E-R-E.
how wide is the easement?
30 feet.
30 feet?
Yeah, that's funny.
We've got some RV park will have less traffic than
That would be part of the
fast food restaurant. I mean, you're going to have a lot less people come through there or anything else, and it's going to develop to somebody. If you don't want that,
There's multiple conversations again. Sorry, I hate to be that's very confusing, especially for Mike trying to follow multiple conversations.
Just one piece of the puzzle that, for me per se, I do agree with the safety issue about coming out across 4 or 5 lanes of traffic, whether it's an RV or a pickup truck or whatever. We talked about the traffic flow coming out of the McDonald's area every day, Wendy's, that kind of stuff. We see it, we set the traffic ourselves. We talked about one way in, one way out, that kind of stuff. We said here, as far as safety concern, a safety concern for me would be one, have one-way traffic going in, go in the KFC drive-through per se, okay, and go into the RV lot, and then have them exit via the Walmart lot. That way they're going to a light, they're coming out on the traffic. So as far as that concern for me, I really don't per se have any. I do have a concern, and for these people up here, that there isn't a plat to get an idea of what this thing looks like, and get an idea of the infrastructure that goes into this and that, and everything the city has to contend with. So that's where I have that concern, but that's them to say. As far as the safety, if you went in through KFC, since that's a 30-foot wide easement, and then had an exit coming out of the Walmart lot, as far as that's concerned, I don't have a point line.
And just to address that briefly, I don't disagree with anything said. The answer that we have, though, is at this point, we haven't solved that. We don't know what it will look like. We don't know, if, I understand that the position is ingress may not cause an issue, but we don't know because we don't have any traffic studies. We don't have a site plan showing how it would work going in and from, to and from. We don't know how the lots are going to be developed. The number of lots that are going to be developed at this point is just, we unfortunately are just not far enough along, and we believe that the board needs to have that information to be able to make an appropriate decision.
And regardless, there's kind of this out there. I mean, let's say the board reached some sort of agreement or found a way to prove this. Regardless of what we do, you guys could still have your own issue. I mean, long-term litigation as far as the easement, I would think, if something was, if you all were a part of this. Correct? I'm guessing that's
Yeah, I mean,
been discussed.
there's two different issues going on. I mean, one is the question of whether or not the board would approve and when they would approve a conditional use permit for this purpose. A secondary issue, and completely separate realistically, is whether or not that easement was intended for this purpose and if they would have that granted, which would be something that you all wouldn't rule on, it would be for the court. But at this point, I mean, we haven't got to that stage yet, and so
Right,
we're
and I
just...
think I said that more for the benefit of maybe some others, because, right, the board approving this would certainly be, in some form or fashion, would be the first step. But even beyond that, were that to occur, I mean, the parties could still end up in litigation,
Correct.
which could have nothing to do with
Or, I mean, separate
us,
agreements
you
could be
know.
reached that would be, that would have nothing to do with you all, that would pertain to the easement.
Right, you all may
different
work them
things,
out.
so, but, we're at the stage right now is trying to determine whether or not a conditional use permit should be granted, and I just don't see how we have the information to do so.
So really, the question in front of the board is not one of an easement, it's one only of a conditional use. That was my question, that was really what my question was to Mike. You take the conditional use part off the board, is the problem truly with the easement? So, but that's a totally different issue. You asked the same question.
Well, I think it's a totally different issue from the standpoint of whether or not they can use the easement for that purpose. I think it's totally relevant in determining whether or not it should be used for a conditional permit. I mean, anyone I think here would admit that if they had road access, they had road frontage and access, that would be tremendously better and for the development and for safety than having to go through an easement, because the purpose of an easement, joint easement, is so multiple people can use it. So if you got 3 or 4 businesses, in this case 2 businesses using the same easement for different purposes, then it's going to cause, other concerns that have to do with what planning and zoning has to decide, is whether or not, in my opinion, specifically, there's any reasonable doubt that it is, for the best interest of the public, and also if it's whether or not it would be injurious to the public in general or any businesses or property in the vicinity. Because I don't think that RV park would fit specifically in neighborhood commercial. And so, I mean,
But if you take that part out and look at just at the cabin section, that does that fits squarely in the permitted use, correct?
it may, but I mean, that's not what's been proposed to the board, it's just a cabin.
Well, to go back further on your point, nothing's been proposed in writing. So if the cabins were what's proposed, then that would be off the board. So would this project still end up in litigation, or would it?
I mean, I can't answer that question. I mean, I personally don't know that cabins, I mean, I know a motel would, but I don't know that cabins would necessarily fall. I mean, there could be an issue as to whether or not that would fall under the neighborhood commercial as well. That's not what was proposed, so I honestly haven't researched into that aspect alone, but.
I just would hate to see an abandoned section of developable property over an easement issue, no matter what the project was.
Well, and I don't disagree with you, and if there's a way that we can make this work for everybody, I mean, we're open to trying to get that worked out, but at this point, we haven't.
So what would be agreeable for your client?
I mean, it's difficult for me to say at this point. It would be, something that we would have to negotiate with respective buyers and owners. At this point, it'd be difficult to say.
So here's a question I think is maybe, because I'm looking at what's permitted in there, in which a gas station is. So let's say again, like a Flying J or something like that, do there. I know it'd be an issue, but we might have an issue with that going back there. Is the question about the easement going to the property or what's being built back there?
I think it's all above. I mean, there's no way I can answer your specific question. I know what you all are trying to get at, and is it that he just doesn't want anything developed back there, or?
Well, I don't think that's what I'm trying to say specifically. I'm not trying to say Mike is trying to hold up development behind his place. But what I'm trying to say is that development is being held up behind that place what is it? Is it the type of development, or is it the easement onto the property?
And I would answer that, I think it's both. I think that, there's multiple things that are holding that up.
I have a question. If there was like 2 hotels built there, probably cause more traffic going in and out if that wasn't blocking it from anything. That would be my primary interest that I wanted to do, but that costs too much money. So I'm just asking if that, let's say the traffic of 2 motels would create a lot more traffic than cabins and RVs. I'm just saying, but is that allowed motels are back there, right?
Yes, sir, that is allowed.
If I could have my choice, that's what I'd do.
Tom Neighbor, I represent Mrs. Bay, who owns the property. And first, I'd like to say that the mayor's assessment of the law in terms of the easements vis-a-vis planning and zoning is dead on. You couldn't get more accurate. As far as the uses proposed for this property, highway commercial, I could not conceive of a use in the HC zone that would be less offensive in terms of traffic to anybody in this area, because they're going to generate a small fraction of the traffic that some things, you could put a Target store in there, think of that. You could put 2 hotels, you could put a Flying J. I mean, the traffic would be crazy. Relatively speaking to this RV park, what I might suggest, and I've done a little bit of this zoning stuff over the years, all over the state. And I think if you apply their requested use to the existing zone and conditional use permit criteria, it's a winner. What I would suggest perhaps is maybe recess this hearing for 30 days, let the developer get something together that has a little more meat on the bones, so to speak, in terms of how many units, where the utilities are going to be, and this, that, and the other, and come back and submit that with documentation and whatnot, and go from there. And also then during, I think, that period of 2 weeks, 30 days, whatever, everyone, that's what you all agree upon. I think that the developer and the gentleman that owns FC there, I think they could probably get together and do some type of an agreement that would be compatible for everybody. And I don't know specifics in this in terms of what they want to put on there or what have you, but it seems to me that write-in only off of the easement, the KFC easement, as I've been putting in my notes, and then exit through the traffic light over at Walmart. That just makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, and I perhaps too would like to see a little more specific on what's going to be on there. So you're allowed to recess this hearing if you want. You're not under any.
Just to pick, I don't think Mr. Davis has an issue with that. I think our whole gist of this is we just need more information, and if you all want to table it and allow him to provide that site plan and that information so that we can all, have time to look at it, review it before we reconvene, I don't think Mr. Davis has an issue with that.
And if that's agreeable with everybody, I would suggest that's what you do. I think it'd give everybody an opportunity to put their collective heads together and get something worked out. I couldn't think of and I don't, probably a poor choice of words, a less offensive use for that property than something like this, because it's not going to put much traffic demand in that area. And
Even if you looked at the traffic, if the complete park turned over every day, that would be 50 vehicles of the traffic count.
For 11 acres,
Yeah.
11 acres, you could put You could put a Menards in there. Florence, if you've seen that building over the last couple of weeks, mind-boggling. Think of what that would do. But anyway, that's my thought. So I'll be quiet. Thank you all.
That's the decision on the, give it 30 days.
I
guys
would
produce something in that time frame, folks?
Mr. Whaley, I would suggest that you, we come up with a new date and time and
Yes.
location, and do that at this meeting. We'll reconvene, for want of a better word, at that date and
Can I
time.
make a request that he provide the information within 30 days of the meeting be set, maybe a week or two after that, so we have time to actually look at it and process that type
It's
of
reasonable
reason.
to me.
Just so you guys are aware, you have your Thanksgiving holiday in there. That will be in 4 weeks. Just so that everybody's aware.
Well, we could do it Thursday, 4 weeks from now.
You can bring a turkey. I'll bring mashed potatoes. Just so that when you guys are looking at your time frame.
I mean, I can do the 8th, 15th. Sorry, what's the thing? I do
5 weeks from now.
So the 15th would be the deadline for the documentation, and then a meeting set for the 29th?
That would give you the 15th would give you 3 weeks.
Okay.
Would that be
Let's see what I can do.
significant enough time for you to be able to get?
I don't know if the time, I'll think it all over and see what we get, but that's at the date, on that 3 weeks, that's fine.
From our standpoint, if he needs more time, I don't think he.
I don't know if you time, 3 to 5 weeks, just, you said Thanksgiving, I didn't even think about that, but that's fine.
Now,
That's
I
what
do have questions on mind. You said there was, I think there's an agreement sort of already in place depending on this. Well, that's still an issue or?
No,
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
if they can't get an agreement together, this board would still have to make its decision
Okay,
based
I just
upon.
wanted to make
yeah.
sure, because I know you said before there's
Yeah.
so many dates and stuff, so I was making sure
No.
that was covered.
What are you talking about, like between Mr. Davis and?
The bays and the.
Oh.
The district release for the.
Oh, we're good there.
Okay, I just want to make
We
sure.
can take care of that.
Okay.
When is the meeting?
When's the next hearing?
Would you guys need time to have it in and review it and then a meeting?
The only thing I would suggest, or what I would ask, is 29th and 30th, this next meeting, perhaps Mr. Durack and Mr. Newmaker is elected to the CLE. I'm just blocking that off. I don't know if I'm the only one, it sounds like Joey may want to go that too. I would rather, I mean, if we have to do it then this comes first, but I would rather not do it 29th and 30th.
Unless there's a facility problem, I mean, I don't care if you don't do it on a Thursday.
No, there's no facility problem.
I'll say, because if it's due the 15th, have a meeting on the 28th, or Wednesday, before the real conference ending.
That would be fine, we do it in the afternoon.
Should we do same time, 2 p.m.?
It's a domestic day grant, but
Wednesday, I'll call you.
we make it happen in the afternoon.
So,
November 28th?
so the meeting has been reconvened until December 28th, 2018. Or, excuse me, November 28th, I'm sorry. November 28th, 2018, this is October. Okay, November 28th, 2018, at 2:00 p.m. at the City of Dry Ridge City Building. Okay,
And
I
we
say.
definitely ask you in that motion that the site plan be submitted by, at the 15th or 16th, then what date do you want? The 15th is 3 weeks. Okay, so then, I'm just gonna read through the motion, so, Chairman Brockman has made a motion then to, have a next meeting on November the 28th at 2:00 here at the city building, and that the site plan be submitted, by November the 15th, to be distributed to parties involved for review, so that everyone can review that before the, in-person meeting then. And Brent, if that site plan is, presented to the city, are we able to distribute that out? Okay, so you could skip that to your site plan to the city, and then we could take care of getting it to the
Everybody
board
involved.
members and to Mike and his attorney then for review, so you wouldn't have to try to get everybody's addresses, we could take care of that for you with that.
Okay.
Second.
Oh, yes, sure.
All in favor?
So do I have a second to adjourn, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.